All right, so CrowdStrike, they're kind of a big deal in cybersecurity these days.
Yeah, their Falcon platform is getting a lot of attention, I mean.
It's valued at over $90 billion.
Yeah, but then there was that outage last summer.
Exactly. So some people are wondering, is it really worth all the hype? So today we're going to do a deep dive into CrowdStrike. We're going to look at their business model, their management team, and their financials.
Basically trying to get a better understanding of what's really going on with this company, you know? Is it a good investment or not?
Exactly. So let's start with the basics. What exactly does CrowdStrike do?
Well, they're trying to be kind of a one-stop shop for cybersecurity, and they're doing it all through the cloud.
Okay, so everything's centralized in this Falcon platform.
Exactly. That's their main product. And it handles everything from incident response to consulting to platform management.
So instead of having a bunch of different security tools,
You've got everything in one place.
makes sense. So you're saying it's like simplified cybersecurity for businesses.
Yeah, and that's a big need right now because cyber attacks are becoming more common and more sophisticated.
Absolutely. Okay, so before we get too deep into the tech side of things, let's break down those three main areas that they focus on.
Sure. So first you've got incident response.
Okay, so what's that all about?
So basically they're like digital detectives, right?
Hmm.
When a company gets hit with a cyber attack,
CrowdStrike comes in to investigate.
exactly, they try to contain the damage and help the company recover.
So it's all about minimizing the impact.
Exactly, because when you're dealing with a security breach, time is of the essence.
I see. So it's kind of like the first responders of the cybersecurity world.
That's a good way to put it. Then there's consulting.
All right, so what do they do there?
Basically, they act as advisors to businesses, helping them strengthen their security, but proactively.
Oh, so it's not just about reacting to attacks. They're trying to prevent them in the first place.
Exactly. It's a more holistic approach.
I see. So what kind of things are we talking about here?
So it could be things like vulnerability assessments, security audits, and training programs.
Okay, so they're trying to get ahead of the curve.
Exactly. And then finally, there's platform services.
Okay, what did that entail?
It's basically making sure that the Falcon platform itself is running smoothly, making sure customers are getting the most out of it.
So it's like the support and maintenance side of things.
Exactly. So that includes things like technical support, software updates, and training on how to use the platform.
Okay, so they've got a pretty comprehensive suite of services. But I'm curious, is the market for this stuff big enough to justify their valuation?
Oh, absolutely. The cybersecurity market is huge.
I mean, I know it's growing, but
It's massive, and it's only getting bigger.
yeah, I've seen projections about how much it's expected to be worth in the next few years. It's incredible.
Yeah, projections show it could reach like $256.5 billion by 2028.
Yeah, and the cost of cybercrime itself.
Oh, man, that's projected to hit $10.5 trillion annually by 2025.
10.5 trillion? That is a mind-boggling number.
It is. It really underscores how important cybersecurity is becoming for pretty much every business out there. And then on top of that, you've got the talent shortage in the field.
Oh, right. I've heard about that.
Yeah, they're expecting millions of cybersecurity jobs to go unfilled in the coming years.
Wow. So it sounds like CrowdStrike is in a pretty good position to capitalize on, all these trends.
Definitely, they're in the right place at the right time.
But of course, they're not the only players in the game. Who are some of their main competitors?
Well, you've got some of those big names that have been around for a while, like Symantec, McAfee.
Yeah, those are familiar names.
And then you have some newer companies as well, like SentinelOne.
Okay, so it's a crowded market.
Hmm.
But CrowdStrike has managed to stand out in some way. I mean, how have they differentiated themselves?
I think their cloud-native approach is a big part of that.
Oh, okay. So how does that give them an advantage?
Well, it allows them to be a lot more agile and responsive than those traditional on-premise security solutions.
I see. So they can adapt more quickly to new threats.
Exactly, and they can push out updates and patches much faster, which is really important in such a rapidly changing landscape.
So it's like they're always one step ahead of the hackers.
That's the idea. And then they're also using AI and machine learning in a big way to automate threat detection and response.
Oh, wow. So they're using AI to fight the bad guys.
Yeah, their AI engine analyzes tons of data to identify and stop attacks in real time.
That's pretty impressive, right? So the technology seems really promising, but, every company's only as good as its leadership. Let's talk about the team behind CrowdStrike.
Well, the company was founded by George Kurtz.
Okay, and what's his background?
He's a veteran of the cybersecurity industry, knows this space inside and out.
So he's got the experience.
Definitely a proven track record of success.
Okay, and what about the rest of the management team?
Yeah, they all have a lot of experience as well.
That's good to hear. But even with a strong leadership team, things can go wrong, right? I'm thinking about that big outage they had back in July 2024.
Oh, yeah, that was a tough one. Millions of devices were affected.
Exactly. So what happened there?
Well, it turned out to be a faulty software update. It just shows you how much we all rely on Microsoft Windows, even for something as critical as cybersecurity.
It's a reminder that even the most sophisticated systems can have vulnerabilities.
Yeah.
So how did CrowdStrike handle the situation?
You know what? I think they did a pretty good job.
Really?
Yeah, they were very transparent about what happened, took full responsibility.
Okay, so they didn't try to sweep it under the rug.
No, not at
Oh.
all. And they worked really quickly to resolve the issue, and they compensated their customers.
Oh, wow. So they went above and beyond to make things right.
Yeah, I think it really showed their commitment to customer service, which is so important in this industry.
Absolutely. So you could say they turned a potential disaster into a PR win.
Yeah, pretty much. It showed that they were willing to own their mistakes and really prioritize their customers.
Yeah, and that can go a long way in building trust. Okay, so we've talked about the business model and the management team. Let's get into the numbers now. CrowdStrike's valuation is sky high, so their financials need to be pretty impressive.
Well, they've been seeing really strong revenue growth.
Oh, that's good to hear.
Yeah, they've consistently been increasing their revenue year over year.
So there's definitely a lot of demand for their services.
Absolutely.
But are they actually profitable? That's the big question.
You know, not quite yet, but they're getting close.
Oh, okay, so they're on the path to profitability.
Yeah, their gross margins are healthy, and they have a strong balance sheet.
So they've got a good financial foundation.
Yeah, they're definitely investing heavily in growth right now.
So they're playing the long game.
Exactly. They're putting a lot of resources into research and development as well as strategic acquisitions.
Yeah, they're trying to expand their offerings and stay ahead of the competition.
Exactly.
All right, it sounds like they're making some smart moves. So we've gotten a pretty good look at CrowdStrike's business model, the management team, and their financials.
Yeah, seems like they're doing all right, but...
But no company is without risks.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So let's kind of shift gears a little bit and see what the market thinks about CrowdStrike.
Yeah, let's look at their ownership structure, too, and some of those challenges that they might be facing.
Okay, so starting with market sentiment.
Well, analysts are pretty bullish on CrowdStrike. A lot of them are predicting continued growth.
Oh, so they're optimistic.
Yeah, a lot of them see that innovative approach as a key driver for future success. The average price target for the stock is around $392.
So there's potential upside there.
Definitely.
Okay, but why are analysts so confident in CrowdStrike? What's driving that optimism?
Well, it's a few things, right? You've got that strong position in a rapidly growing market.
Yeah, cybersecurity is definitely a hot sector.
Absolutely. And then you've got their cloud-native platform commitment to AI-driven solutions. And let's not forget their customer retention rate.
Oh yeah, that's an important one.
Yeah, they've consistently maintained a rate above 120%.
Wow, so that means customers are sticking around.
Yeah, it indicates a high level of customer satisfaction.
So they're seeing value in what CrowdStrike offers. But who are these customers? Let's talk about the ownership structure.
Sure. So a big chunk of CrowdStrike shares are held by institutional investors.
Okay, so that's like mutual funds, hedge funds.
Exactly. The big players. And that's generally seen as a positive sign. It shows that these big financial institutions are confident in CrowdStrike's long-term success.
So they're putting their money where their mouth is, so to speak.
Exactly.
Okay, but does anyone within the company, like the leadership team, have skin in the game?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. CEO George Kurtz, he has a significant ownership stake.
Well, that's good to hear.
It shows that he's invested in the company's success.
So it's not just about, collecting a paycheck.
Right. Their interests are aligned with the shareholders.
That's encouraging. But let's be realistic for a moment. Every investment has risks. What are some things that investors should be aware of when it comes to CrowdStrike?
Well, that July 2024 outage, that was a big one.
Yeah, definitely a red flag.
Even though they handled it well, it still raises some concerns about system reliability.
Yeah, it kind of exposed their dependence on Microsoft Windows.
Exactly. And it showed that even with all that advanced technology, there's still a potential for vulnerabilities.
So no system is perfect.
No, definitely not. And then you've got to consider the competition in the cybersecurity industry.
Oh yeah, it's a crowded market.
It is. You've got those established players and a bunch of new startups all vying for market share.
So CrowdStrike needs to constantly innovate to stay ahead.
Exactly. They can't afford to rest on their laurels. And then there's the challenge of maintaining that rapid growth while transitioning to profitability.
Yeah, that's a tough balancing act.
It is. They've got to manage their expenses carefully,
Yeah.
keep investing in R&D, and then there's the whole economic context to think about.
Oh, right, like a potential downturn.
Exactly. That could impact cybersecurity spending if businesses start tightening their belts.
So there are definitely a lot of factors at play. It's a complex landscape. To kind of organize our thinking here, let's use that SWOT framework to analyze CrowdStrike's risk profile.
Okay. Yeah, good idea.
So let's start with the strengths. What are some of CrowdStrike's key strengths?
Well, we've already talked about some of them. That cloud-native platform is a huge advantage. It allows for scalability, rapid updates.
Yeah, that proactive approach to threat detection.
Exactly. And their use of AI and machine learning, that's another big strength. They can analyze so much data and respond to threats really quickly. And then you've got that experienced leadership team.
Right, they know what they're doing.
Absolutely.
Okay, so they've got a solid foundation. What about weaknesses? We already mentioned their reliance on Windows. Are there any other areas where they might be vulnerable?
Well, their valuation is pretty high.
Yeah, we've talked about that.
So that creates high expectations. There's a lot of pressure on them to keep delivering those strong results.
Right, they've got to live up to the hype.
And then there's that competitive market, which requires constant innovation and investment.
Yeah, they can't fall behind.
Definitely not.
Okay, so what about opportunities? Where do you see potential for growth and expansion?
Well, the cybersecurity market itself is a huge opportunity.
Yeah, it's just going to keep growing.
Exactly. And CrowdStrike's focus on cloud security puts them in a great position.
So they're riding the wave, so to speak.
Exactly. And then there's the potential for expansion through acquisitions.
Oh, right, buying up other companies to gain access to new markets and technologies.
Exactly.
Okay, so plenty of avenues for growth. But what about threats? What external factors could hinder their progress?
Well, we've already talked about the competition and potential economic downturns.
Right, those are always looming.
But then you've got things like evolving regulations, increased scrutiny on data privacy.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one these days.
Yeah, they need to make sure they're complying with all the new rules.
And protecting their customers' data.
Absolutely.
So they need to be adaptable, basically.
Yeah, agile and adaptable.
Okay, so we've covered their strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Overall, what's your assessment of CrowdStrike's risk profile?
You know, they definitely face risks, like any company. It's a dynamic industry. But they also have a lot of strengths, and they're well-positioned to take advantage of the opportunities.
Yeah, they've got a lot going for them.
They do, and I think it'll come down to their ability to manage those risks, adapt to the changes, and execute their vision.
Yeah, that's what will ultimately determine their long-term success.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground today with CrowdStrike.
Yeah, it's a really interesting company.
It is, in a really important industry. So let's wrap things up with a final conclusion, and I want to leave our listeners with a thought-provoking question. All right, so we've done a pretty thorough deep dive on CrowdStrike, looked at their business model, management, financials, even those risks and opportunities.
It's a pretty fascinating company, gotta say.
Yeah, they're definitely at the forefront of a really critical industry, and they seem to be doing a lot of things right.
Absolutely. They've got that cloud-native platform. They're using AI, and their leadership team really knows the cybersecurity world.
Yeah, and the market for what they do is just getting bigger.
It's a huge opportunity.
But we can't forget about that outage last summer. It kind of reminds us that no system is foolproof.
Yeah, it showed that they're not immune to vulnerabilities, and it also highlighted how much we rely on Windows, which isn't always a good thing.
Right, so it's a reminder that there are always risks involved. So with all this in mind, the big question is CrowdStrike worth the hype? Is it a good investment?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It is, and I don't think there's an easy answer. It depends on your individual risk tolerance, investment goals, all that stuff.
Exactly. How much do you believe in their vision?
Right, and how confident are you that they can execute it?
They seem to be ticking a lot of the boxes for a solid long-term investment, but that high valuation, that's something to consider carefully.
Yeah, they need to keep delivering those strong results to justify that price tag.
Absolutely. And I think investors should keep a close eye on a few things, like their customer retention rate, their innovation pipeline, how they manage those potential risks we talked about.
It's definitely a company to watch, that's for sure. It's a really interesting industry, too, and I think it'll be fascinating to see how they navigate all the challenges and opportunities that are out there.
Yeah, the future of cybersecurity is pretty exciting, and CrowdStrike's right in the middle of it all.
Absolutely. Well, if this deep dive has piqued your interest in analyzing stocks like CrowdStrike, I highly recommend checking out our YouTube channel, Stock Analytics AI.
We break down complex financial stuff in a way that's easy to understand, and we use AI to help you make those investment decisions.
And as always, a friendly reminder that everything we've talked about today is just for informational purposes. It's not financial advice.
Right. Always do your own research. Talk to a financial advisor. And remember that past performance is not a guarantee of future results.
So stay curious, stay informed, and as always, happy investing.